Now, with the recent rise in higher education institutions being suspended or no longer officially recognized, would-be students are falling victims to scams. Fraudulent institutions are now posing as legitimate places for young as well as hungry South Africans to study towards what is hopefully a decently paying career. So what do people need to be aware of and be on the lookout for? And how does one check if an institution is legitimate and recognized by local authorities? Let's speak to Denver Grigg, the head of planning and research then at the Boston City campus. Denver, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. I mean, how many of these are there really? Is this really just rising? And is the reason just really a whole lot of institutions really just falling by the wayside because of funding?
I think the problem is that because of online and digital education, a lot of people can start institutions quickly without registering them or getting them accredited. And so there's a proliferation of these institutions around the country. But it's quite simple. There are plus minus 175 registered institutions in the country, higher education institutions, 26 public institutions, and about 150 private institutions. And if parents and students know who these institutions are, the registered institutions, it makes it a whole lot simpler for parents and students to understand which are the legitimate institutions.
Yeah, trying to get them to understand that, though, could often be very difficult, right? So how do you know that you're actually speaking to the correct one?
I think my suggestion is the Department of Higher Education and Training has 26 public institutions, and you can go onto their website and see which are the 26 public universities across the country. The Department of Higher Education and Training also has a register of accredited and registered private higher education institutions. There's about 150 of those, and that's publicly available information. So I would encourage prospective students to go onto the Department of Higher Education and Training's website and understand who the 26 registered universities are and who the 150 registered private higher education institutions are. With that knowledge, it's easy to understand who is not registered. If they're not on those lists, they're not legitimate in South Africa.
Do we need to just get stricter laws?
I think we have a very robust regulatory system, so I don't think we need to get stricter laws. I think we probably need to work on awareness so that the public understands that information is readily available, and it's actually quite simple once you understand information to discern what are legitimate institutions and which are fly-by-night institutions. It's just awareness more than regulation or new laws, in my opinion.
What if you actually get nabbed by one of these illegitimate schools then and fraudulent institutions? There's no way to kind of get your money back or fight them, is there?
My suggestion, the fly-by-night institutions will be private institutions, not registered ones, but ones that are trying to make money. I would suggest that anyone go to the DHET and to specifically Dr. Shahida Essek at the DHET and lodge a complaint, because she will go and follow up and challenge these institutions. And so there is recourse for the public to go to the DHET and actually lodge a complaint. The complaints are taken very seriously and investigations are done. So there definitely is recourse. It's just to know who to speak to at the Department of Higher Education and Training. And they take complaints very seriously. So public does have recourse in that sense.
How much is this also pushed, though, Denver, by the fact that we have so many people who are in need then of higher or tertiary education, thinking, of course, that it's ultimately going to aid their future?
Yes, I think that's a huge thing with limited spots at public institutions and the more increased cost of privates. There are people that will go for short courses and courses that are not legitimate. And that's a huge problem at the moment. And it's really to speak to these students and to these people to say, rather wait, save, take the study slower. Like where I work, we do online distance education, and you can take it over the maximum period of the qualification. So a degree, the minimum qualification is 3 years, but you could study over 9 years, and which is a long period of time, but you can then afford to study instead of going for a short course or something that's not legitimate and that doesn't help you in the end. There are different ways around it.
Yeah, but costing also becomes that problem. You've just made note of it there as well. How much of that is a big, big problem to the reasoning why you're seeing all these, let's call it, as you made note of it, fly-by-night institutions which are getting so much favor?
My suggestion is that the South African government does provide probably billions of rands worth of bursaries to students, and it's for students to go to the institution, to the public institution, to go to the NSFAS who fund students and to understand how that works and to take the time to do that, because there are opportunities in this country and they are available to students. And again, it's about awareness that the government does provide funding. It's just how to access this funding. My suggestion is many institutions, private legitimate institutions, will give you free career counseling. So you don't even have to register. Go and get the free career counseling to understand what your options are, the costs are, and these institutions will refer you to other institutions if their institution is not a fit. So to access career counseling at many institutions around the country, legitimate ones, will really aid students in understanding the landscape and what is possible for them.
Denver, as the school year then, of course, kicks off as well in terms of tertiary institutions, just I suppose your advice to those who have registered, have not registered, or are looking for proper education in terms of planning, paying their fees, etc., the school year, any sort of words you might have for them?
I'd suggest get ahead of as soon as you get your matric results, if you're a new student, get ahead and register at multiple institutions. Many institutions will offer free registration, so it won't hurt you to register across a range of institutions to see what your options are, and then go for that career counseling. Go to an advisor at an institution and ask them to talk you through your options, what type of payment options there are, what type of bursary options there are, so that you're aware. You give yourself as many possibilities and start as early as possible, would be my advice.
Planning, planning, planning. Denver, appreciate your time this evening. Thank you so much for joining us here on News at Prime. Then, how to avoid being scammed by fake tertiary institutions. Denver Grigg there is the head of quality planning and research at Boston City Campus.